of his followers. Watch it. Even if the evidence is undeniable and the witnesses are available, a cold case remains cold if there's no one interested in reopening the case. Too many times, and like I just told you, I love Cold Case File. It's my favorite station, and I get mad at it at home because I keep my channel, and anybody who got Verizon knows channel 123, and that's the criminal channel. But cold cases stay cold even if there's nobody interested in it. Right? So in order to reopen something, somebody has to be interested in reopening it. Hence, that's why most of the police departments have what they call a cold case department. And all their duty is to reopen cold cases no matter how many years ago it was. So watch it. On the days following the crucifixion, there was very little interest among the Romans of reopening this cold case. Right. Scribes and Pharisees refused to talk about it and had no interest in dealing with it. While they refused to talk about it, investigate it, or explore its implications, there were thousands who refused to believe the official account. Their numbers grew by the thousands as they announced their faith in God and believed that He raised Jesus from the dead. Today, brothers and sisters, there are 1.2 billion Christians around the world who have an interest in reopening this cold case. And so the faith of believers sustains us and never diminished, no matter how tough the times get. Faith helps us to believe that no matter what comes, God is still God. He is still our God whose power never weakens. He's still our God whose grace never disappoints. He's still our God that love never leaves. He's still our God which promises never fail. He's still our God that the glory never diminishes. The joy never ends. Foundations never shake. Truth never changes. Supply never shrink. People of faith around the world can testify that if the world thinks God is dead, then they should reopen the cold case. And so I'm done. Here it is. Watch this. The third thing you need to do about this is solving my own case. Watch it, because we must consider that those who reopened the cold case on Easter Sunday morning found the same truth that millions today share as well. That Christ lives, and so does our hope for life everlasting. The crucifixion and death of Christ was a cold case. But it was not a closed case. Y'all gonna get that when you get home. Watch that. It was not closed because the unseen hand of God was moving to bring new life into a dead situation. The disciples witnessed the gory details of the crucifixion. To reopen this cold case would mean believing that the man they saw crucified and buried was indeed alive. So reopening this cold case was a circumstance of hope, lost and then found again. So watch it, because reopening the cold case requires a leap of faith. And these 11 men were with him in the garden when the temple guards came to seize him. They were close by when he was tried by the Sanhedrin Council and found guilty. They were close by when Herod mocked and ridiculed him. They were in the crowd when Pilate handed him over to the soldiers for crucifixion. They watched as he carried a cross toward Golgotha's hill. They watched as he was nailed to the cross and lifted high. They were present when he gave up the ghost and died. They saw him buried in fleshy hewn tomb. They saw the stone rolled in front of the tomb and guards placed in front of the tomb. For the disciples, there was considerable evidence of Christ's death. So to reopen this cold case was testimony and evidence that he was truly alive. And so today, There are millions of cold cases who face the prospect of failure, defeat, and hopelessness. Their world has given up on their cases, and they have all been written off. The message of the resurrection is that cold cases like ours can be reopened. Hope is still alive. Failure can be overcome, and the power of God has not been conquered. So when Joseph was thrown into a pit by his brothers and left to die, it looked like a cold case mystery when his father was brought a blood-stained coat of many colors. However, God reopened that cold case and raised Joseph to be the prime minister of Egypt. I wish I had some Bible reading. So when Lazarus lay in his tomb for 4 days, Mary and Martha dismissed it as a cold case file. They chastised Jesus, saying, if you'd have been here, our brother wouldn't have died. Despite the sadness of the moment, the Lord reopened the cold case and gave his new life. When the Hebrew boys were thrown into a fiery furnace, they saw that the hot fire and they thought it was a cold case. But God reopened that cold case and protected them with air conditioning. Ezekiel was carried into a valley of dry bones, the ultimate cold case, and asked, Son of man, can these bones live? The answer came that they can live if they will hear the word of the Lord. So I hear Isaiah saying, he was wounded for our transgression, bruised for our iniquity. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. So on Sunday morning, I'm going to my seat now. They reopened a cold case and found that Christ lives. And because he lives, he reopens my cold case and gives me another chance. Y'all know about that second chance. So because he lives, I can face these days standing on the promises of God. Because he lives, I can get up if I mess up and start all over again. Because he lives, there's no mountain too high for me to climb. Because he lives, there's no defeat that I cannot turn into a victory. Because he lives, there's no failure that can conquer my soul and hold me down. Because he lives. Goodbye, y'all. I'm gone. I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future. I'm glad that he came down here and lived for 33 years. I'm glad that he died on an old rugged cross to save my soul. But I'm so glad that early Sunday morning he got up with all power. I said all power. All power. I said all power in his hands. All power in his hands. I'm so glad that he let me see another resurrection Sunday so I can tell the world that he lives. And if you just try him, he'll heal your sick body. If you try him, he'll put you back in your right mind. If you try him, he'll put your family back together. He lives. Anybody know he lives? And anybody just shout he lives. Anybody got the faith that he lives? I dare somebody shout he lives. Tell your neighbor he lives. Tell your neighbor he lives. Because I walk, he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me that I am his own. Anybody know he lives? Anybody know he lives? Doors of the church are open. Saying it to you. He lives. Anybody know he lives? And anybody just don't get happy on resurrection morning, but you wake up every morning and say, thank you, Lord, and you're happy. Tell in your soul that he lives. Because he lives. Families can walk away from you. He lives. My friends look at their caller ID and don't even answer the phone no more when they know I'm in trouble. But he lives. Church folks can walk away from him. He lives. And no matter what goes on in my life, I know he lives. Can I tell you something else? That's why them good folks who locked up in jail, I tell them all the time, don't worry about the money being put on your books. Don't worry about your visitation. I know a man. And he lives. And he can come even when the doors are shut. He can come no matter what your circumstance. He lives. That's why I shout every day I go to work. He lives. When my supervisor get on my nerves. He lives. When I can't take the problems going on in my house. He lives. Just shout he lives one time. Just shout he lives. doors of the church are open. If you want to get to know this man, that he lives, why don't you come? He's not worried about what you did yesterday. He's not worried about what you did 20 minutes ago. He's not worried about what you did last week. He's waiting with open arms. And he lives. And he's waiting on you. Why don't you come? And here's the greatest thing about it that I tell everybody, and this is right here, living proof of my cold case being reopened. I'm not that better than you. I'm just a sinner saved by grace. And I just want you to go where I'm going. So when you close your eyes for that final time, I don't want you to just think that you've been put in the ground and that's where you stay. No, I want you to go where I'm going. That's why I'm not afraid to close my eyes and take my final sleep, because I serve a God who lives. And I know he lives. So why don't you come? And then there may be somebody here today. You say, preacher man, I'm saved. I done went down in the baptismal pool, but guess what? I have nowhere to go. Why don't you come? Even if you're saved, everybody needs a covering. It's not a good thing to hop from church to church. You need a strong foundation. You need somewhere where you can go. And even if you don't want to come here, we'll send you where you want to go. Because we're not in the church building over here. We're in the kingdom building. That's all I'm worried about. I'm worried about your souls getting saved. And so today, if you want to walk down this aisle and say, preacher, I'm saved. You know, I don't like your church. It's not my style. That's okay. Maybe I hoop a little too much for you. Maybe I yell too much for you. Maybe you don't. Guess what? I'll send you to a nice, quiet church. I know a couple of them. But you know what? Up in here, we give God the praise because we realize what he's done for us. So we're happy about it. So if you want a nice, quiet church, I know a couple you could go to. I'll send you there. That's not a problem. Lovely, wonderful pastors, and we'll send you there. So why don't you come? The doors of the church are open. We'll wait for a minute. Why don't you come? Don't worry about who's sitting beside you, standing next to you. Don't worry about who's looking at you. Don't worry about what you look like. Why don't you just come on down and say, preacher, I want to give you my hand, but most importantly, I want to give God my heart. This is your opportunity. Won't you come?